Hello and welcome to Asking for a Trend. I'm Josh Lipton, and for the next half hour, we are breaking down the trends of today that'll move stocks tomorrow. There's a lot to keep track of, so we're focusing on what you need to know to get ahead of the curve. Here are some of the trends we're going to be diving into. It was a record-breaking day on Wall Street. The Dow holding above 50,000 as investors gear up for a busy week. We've got the takeaways of the trading day. Plus, the race to go public is heating up between some of the largest private companies, including SpaceX and OpenAI. We're taking a deeper dive there. Plus, one of the viral Super Bowl ads was from Amazon-owned Ring. Coming up, a conversation with the company's co-founder who appeared in that ad. Well, 2026 is shaping up to be a strong year for the IPO market after flashing signs of life in 2025. Big question now is whether that momentum is sustainable as investors wait for the potential debuts from big names like SpaceX and OpenAI. For more, we're bringing in Gené Teare, Senior Data Editor at Crunchbase News. Gené, it is good to see you. So before turning to the IPO outlook in 2026, I'm curious, Gené, just to get your thoughts on what we saw in 2025, because you do know, listen, we saw a pickup there last year, and I'm just curious, Gené, what did you chalk that up to in 2025? Was that rates, valuations, market confidence? What do you think?
Hey, Josh, great to be here. So I think 2025 was up significantly in global venture. So it was up globally 30% year over year. And if you just look at the US and North American market, it was up 46%. And we looked under our data and all of that growth was AI related. So I think the fact that so much money was invested last year compared to, I think it was the second highest year for North American venture funding after 2021 when everything was up and to the right. And so massive growth year. And I think that was all to do with AI. And it ties into what we're seeing in the public markets is there's so much excitement around how AI is going to reformat software, how it's changing the whole landscape. We're seeing some of these companies come through who are beginning to get significant market share in these very new sectors. And so I think on the venture side, there's excitement about these new AI native companies who are growing. Then there's the whole infrastructure space. There's deep tech is being reformatted, healthcare. So I think just huge enthusiasm and excitement that we're seeing from investors. A lot of anxiety as well, because it's become way more competitive. But the market is just primed for, there are new companies going to come through who are going to be the leading companies 5 and 10 years from now. And that's why we've seen a massive pickup in venture funding on the private market side. So given all that excitement about AI, Gene, when you're thinking through the 2026 IPO market, do you think, at the end of the day, Gene, it's going to be even stronger than 2025? And what are the puts and takes? What are the variables that depends on? Yeah, I do think it is going to be stronger in 2026 and 2025. Everyone, we expect that the biggest IPO, venture-backed IPO of all time will happen in 2026. The last one was Facebook, is the largest of all time at 104 billion in 2012. So that's more than a decade ago. But I think when you're looking at, we have a unicorn board with 1,600 companies valued above $1 billion. The board went up in the last year in more than 2 trillion. You have SpaceX now valued at 800 billion. You have OpenAI second at 500 billion. So massive valuation increases that we've seen on the private side. And I think so many of those companies have been readying over the last 3 years, have been a much slower. 2025, we did see IPOs pick up a little bit. And I think it was really gearing up to 2026. So even though the markets have been quite unstable, there is this concern around how SaaS is being transformed by AI. Nonetheless, there are a lot of companies who have significant revenue, and some are seeing some reacceleration with this AI story. SpaceX would be one of those. And so I think we are going to have probably more towards the latter half of 2026, we are going to see a pickup in the IPO markets this year, despite all the turbulence we saw in the last week.
If you saw a mega IPO like that, Gené, this year, let's say Elon Musk really did bring SpaceX public, what would that mean for the broader IPO market? Or does it mean anything, Gené? Or is, on the other hand, is SpaceX just sort of, it's a kind of one-of-one company?
Yeah, I think SpaceX is a one-of-one that they could go out in any market. They have revenue in the billions. They're profitable. Starlink is their most profitable product. They've now merged and brought xAI on board, which is obviously going to be a growing concern as well in competing with OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini. So I think SpaceX is one of a kind, but I think what the market is looking for is one of those very high value companies to go out. And that will, in a sense, create some energy and enthusiasm around the market. But I don't think it changes the overall picture. And we're seeing this on the private market side where it's highly competitive. Who are the companies that are leading today? Their revenue is no longer baked in that they're going to be the leading companies in 5 to 10 years. I think there's lots of questions around all those SaaS companies. And so even though SpaceX can go out and there will be excitement, I think there are a number of others. Databricks would be another one. I still think the market is going to look at companies very differently. And, I looked at the Bessemer Venture Index looking at companies growing in the cloud space, and, growth rates are not very high across the board. So even there, though there is this AI story, a lot of these companies have not necessarily seen this reacceleration. And will they, or will they be taken over by other private companies, I guess is the question. And so that's, I think, being factored in.
I'm interested, Gené. Do you think if you're going to bring a company public in 2026, do you think you almost have to have an AI story, Gené, an AI narrative to tell public market investors?
Absolutely. I think every single company has to have an AI story that wants to go public. And if you don't have if AI doesn't impact your business, that's what you need to explain. So I think AI is at the center of almost every company that we're seeing go out. And if it isn't, you have to explain why the AI markets are not going to impact your business. And, even if you look at like Figma and Klarna, CoreWeave, AI, it's a data center company. They went public last year and their stock is up massively. But if you look at the other major stocks that went public last year, Figma, Klarna, they're not up above their IPO price. So I think this uncertainty is getting baked into, the newer offerings that are coming out as well. Can they address this? And I think the market's very uncertain. It doesn't know how to price these companies. It doesn't know what these companies' futures look like as this new wave is brought in. And so I think there's a lot of uncertainty on the public side, and we're seeing that on the private side. It's hyper competitive. So even though investors are putting more money to work, they are so concerned about missing out on the next thing that they're putting a lot more money to work, but they're always looking around the corner for companies who are going to come in and compete with their fast-growing startups. So highly competitive.
Finally,
Gené,
you've been watching this space a long time, I know, and studying it. I'm just curious if you think there's, a mistake or common mistakes that public market investors make, Gené, when it comes to IPOs, whether it's, maybe not doing enough due diligence on the fundamentals or getting carried away by hype and headlines. Any takeaways there, Gené?
I think we're in a much more cautious, IPO market. In 2021, there were so many companies that went public that then had to delist and couldn't sustain. So I think the market is much more rational today than it was in the 2021 environment. And I think what investors are looking for is large revenues. I think that's part of it, growth, but also a path to profitability. So I think we're in a much more rational market than we were in 2021. I think the challenge still is if you're growing today at 30% or 40% or 50%, is that growth going to sustain itself, or are other competitors going to come in? And so I think the uncertainty is around, can we rely on these leading companies continue to lead in the markets that they're in? And I think that's up for question.
Gené, great to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be here.
Stick around. Much more As for Trends still to come. Dow ekes out a fresh record close as tech bounces back. Yahoo Finance's Jared Blikre joining us now with the trading day takeaways. Jared.
Thank you, Josh. Got to talk about tech. That was a nice comeback today. Is it going to last? I don't know. Let's check out how far this movement was in relation to what we kind of saw last week. So here are the large cap sectors in the upper left. That's XLK, 1.5%. Here's what's happened over the last 10 days, because that's kind of when we saw software really start to lead the way down. And here we see tech is second to last. So it's still down 2%. Now let me show you a picture of our semiconductor heat map. This is over the last 10 days, and you can see not a whole lot of damage was done. In fact, a lot of good stuff was done with these stocks. Intel up 18%, ARM up 8%, Western Digital up 18%, but AMD 14 down, Qualcomm down 10. Okay, but compare that board to this board, software, and that's a whole lot of red right there. From some of the biggest, from Microsoft down 12%, SAP, Oracle down 14%, along with Palantir, and let me just show you the last line here. Like Atlassian down 34%. That is a huge loss. So I think software is not out of the woods just yet, but it's a nice start.
Tech was up. What was down?
Let's check that out. I was looking at specifically the dollar and rates. And so let's do a little technical analysis on both of those. I'm going to start with the dollar, and then we'll get into a little talk with Joe Bruce-Wellis from RSM Economics. Okay, here's the US dollar index. This is over the last 6 months. Here's what I was watching. So we just took out this low a week or two ago, and then we came roaring back. So it looks like a false break to the downside. But then today we were down 0.8%. That is some momentum right there. And so I'm thinking if we break these lows, and we have to be prepared for that, where are we going next? Here's a longer term chart. I got to go even longer term than that. Here's 10 years, and you can see 90, and that is a big round level right there, and that is pretty far away. That would have huge implications for commodities. It would give them a boost, theoretically, as well as stocks. But then you're worried about interest rates, because then you might lose control of the 30-year. Let me just dial the 30-year down to a 3-year chart, and this is something I was just discussing with Joe Bruce-Wellis over at RSM, and this episode is going to drop tomorrow, by the way, and I was pointing out this pennant formation here in the 30-year and how the dips from the 5% level, which has caused trouble for stocks, they keep getting shallower and shallower and shallower, so that's why you have this pennant formation. Here's what he had to say about it.
So I went for just like macro first principle thinking. So where has the world changed since I left? AI.
All right, so
That's not Joe Bruce-Wellis.
let's pick it up as though it is. All right, so here we have these rising higher lows, and basically this is telling you that this chart wants to break to the upside. And if and when that happens, that's going to be a huge problem for the United States government, for the Fed. So we're not there yet, and we could kind of oscillate around in here. We could even break to the downside, but the prevailing trend is to the upside. Here's where we've come. Here's where we are right now. So that's where my head is there.
I am looking forward to the Bruce-Wellis interview, by the way.
Thank you.
That's a smart guy, Joe Bruce-Wellis.
Drops Tuesday morning.
I will tune in. Metals.
Metals.
Give me a Jared Blikre take.
Gold greater than silver. So with the big dollar weakness today, we saw all metals that I was looking at catch a bid. And gold in particular has really roared back quite a bit more strongly than silver, than palladium, than platinum. And it just kind of goes to show you the bid that gold has had. Let me dial this back down to an intraday. And there we go. Silver, let's get the gold chart up. And I'm going to show you a 3-month chart, and you can see, so here's that big peak that we had, here's the decline, but we have recovered about 2/3 of that, not quite yet, so we're not out of the woods, but nevertheless, holding above 5,000. You compare that to silver, which was up an impressive 8% today, still hanging out near these lows. So my point is, the premium on gold, still there.
All right, thank you, buddy.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Stick around, much more Ashford Trends still to come. Amazon's Ring doorbell showed off its new AI capabilities in its ad during the Super Bowl. The commercial featured the company's founder and chief inventor, Jamie Siminoff. Yahoo Finance executive editor Brian Sozzi caught up with him ahead of the Super Bowl in a new episode of the Opening Bid Unfiltered podcast.
So I went for just like macro first principle thinking. So where has the world changed since I left? AI. How does AI, how are we going to benefit our customers with AI? We need to see more. Like we now have this sort of super intelligence in the cloud, and so we need to see more. So I said we need to increase the number of pixels that are out there. So 4K cameras. So we're going to we need a full line of 4K cameras, 2K cameras. We need to increase, whereas before it was really the human eye, like, you know, if you're a customer, we call our customers neighbors, but if you're like one of our neighbors, you know, is like kind of what you could see is fine. But now with AI, the more pixels you get, the deeper it can see, the more analytics, the better it can sort of tell you stuff. So that was one. The second one was literally just AI. We need to lead in every way, and we have a mission to make neighborhoods safer. We need to start figuring out how to use AI in the neighborhood to benefit the neighborhood. So one of the first things we launched is Dog Search Party. Now, you know, if your dog is missing, it's gonna be like, Jamie, you know, this dog that was posted that is missing looks like this dog in front of your house. Do you want to contact your neighbor?
Hell yeah.
Of course. And by the way, if you say no, I mean, you're just a bad person. But the cool thing is actually, to be serious, is like you can say no. No one knows you said no, and your privacy is fine. But if you want to enter into the neighborhood, which any good person is going to do, they say yes, and then they talk to their neighbor like, your dog is here, and they return it. One dog per day, over one dog per day, is being reunited with their family, like literally today, like every day, and that's what we're doing. So like that's a feature that I was like, we need to do these things because we have over 100 million cameras out there, and we need to help our neighbors leverage them for good. We launched something called Firewatch. The LA fires that everyone saw. I mean, these big sort of events. One of the problems is the firemen don't know where the things are jumping. So fire jumps like a quarter of a mile, a half a mile, like literally can jump like these huge lines, start somewhere else. And so it's very hard for them to understand where to fight the fire outside of like the core, like what they can see burning. Mm-hmm. And then those things become big fires, which then makes it harder for resources. We had over 10,000 cameras in the Palisades area, which is where I live, in Los Angeles at the time of the fire. We absolutely could have helped to make a real-time map for them to use the resources better. If we can use the resources better, maybe we had enough resources there to help slow. I don't think we would have stopped certainly would have it's not like there would have been no fire, but maybe we could have helped stop some of these other little areas from burning and other houses from burning and families from being affected.
What's the next big unlock for Ring? I mean, I look at the doorbell, game-changing product. It's hardware, but it sounds like software is the next frontier.
I think the software. It's all about the stuff we're doing. With the sort of, again, the search party, the Firewatch. Then we also launched an app store, and I think the other thing, pre-AI. Like your camera gave you, I would say, like if you bought your camera for $100, I think we gave you like $100 of value for it. We gave you as much value as you could based on the technology and where it was. Now there's other things you want to know, like why is the camera seeing the lawn go brown and not telling you that like your lawn's dying? Why?
Kind of blow my mind because I need my camera. It's facing my lawn.
We didn't set this up.
Wait, is that feature out? Like, is it coming out this summer?
So what we did is Ring, and this is where I think companies make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like Ring is focused on making neighborhoods safer. We're focused on building the products. Like you have to focus in my opinion, you have to focus to be successful and to deliver the best for your customers and our neighbors. But things like this, the long tail of things, is going to be super important. But it's like the iPhone. Apple didn't build every game, every app, every whatever. They built a few core things, right? Like around their core. And then there's, I don't know, a million apps. I don't even know what it is on the iPhone. I think we're going the same direction. So now you can add from a third party, a grass thing. But no one's built it. You go build it. Someone should build this.
Like if my car's parked out front, I need to know if the tire needs air.
All these all these are these long tail things, like that someone else, and with AI. Literally someone in high school, a kid in high school could probably build this, focus on it, build a really cool app, throw it in the app store again, just like on the iPhone, and then get picked up and make some money with it, whatever, charge a little bit, So we announced this app store at CES this year in January, so we just announced it, and I think we're going to see thousands or tens of thousands of these types of use cases that are going to benefit people. And again, some people are going to want to see the lawn thing. Some people aren't. So that's where an app store is great, is it allows you to really customize and get the most value out of that sort of what the camera's capturing.
I think about this lawn feature and I immediately think, this is great for my landscaper. This is good for the economy. What are some of your concerns, though, on how fast AI is moving? I mean,
certainly AI is the fastest. I mean, in my career, I haven't seen anything like this. I don't think anyone has. It's something where you say the best in class is this while we're literally sitting here, and 20 minutes later, someone launches something that's like 10x better. It's like, I've never seen the leapfrogging that's happening in it, and it's unbelievable to watch it. I'm very positive. I'm someone who I think maybe as an entrepreneur, like I always look at sort of the bright side of things. I think it's going to deliver. It's democratizing information. I think it's going to allow people to really, truly unlock their full potential. I'm actually very overall globally positive on what it's going to do, and I'm seeing at Ring what we're doing with it again, like returning a dog, that is AI that's doing that, reuniting that dog with a family. Hopefully, fighting the next fire with AI, and I think that's what we have to do also as an industry. If I would say I'm including myself in sort of somewhere in this industry, is we have to show people what it's doing. Like the problem is when we talk about AI, and it doesn't do anything for you, yeah, you're probably gonna be scared of it or not like it. But if you start to see that, your dog comes back home, or you're safer in a fire, or you feel safer in your home, or your landscaping is better, you'll start to be like, oh, I get this.
Is there one more big invention to be had in the home?
There's millions of big inventions to still be had. I think, if there's anything history has told us, is that we can never sort of imagine the next thing. There's always something next.
See these humanoids folding laundry and stuff? Are you a big humanoid guy?
The humanoid thing is interesting because if you could make a humanoid at a low enough, the world is built for humanoids. We built the entire planet for the human, basically model. And so the big unlock with humanoids is that they can use anything. They can jump into a car and then to a bulldozer and then on a bike. They can kind of, if you really truly have a humanoid, it can just sort of fit all the things we've built over the last hundreds of years in the planet.
That's a wrap on today's Ask for a Trend. Be sure to come back tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern for all of the latest market moving stories affecting your wealth.